Morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the Walkthrough Radio Show. Kevin Walker, Jason Collins, right here on Never Had It So Good Sports Radio. Also on YouTube at the Walkthrough Radio Show. Check us out, guys. K Walk, I love to hear those fight songs, man. College
Yes, sir.
football
Yes, sir.
back. It's back. How you doing this morning, man? What's going on?
I'm doing well, my brother. I'm doing well, man. Yeah, so excited about a full week of football, man. So had some great games last night, but I'm looking forward to the show for sure to talk about it. How are you doing this morning, my brother?
Everything's good. Everything's good, K Walk, man.
Good.
And I was joking with you a few weeks ago, man, when I called you the king of t-shirts, but you just
Yeah.
keep them coming every week, K Walk. You keep them coming, man. I think last weekend it was it like the Reese's Pieces t-shirt? This
Yeah,
weekend you
yeah,
got
man.
is that my man Buzz Lightyear, K Walk. Ladies and
Yeah, Toy
gentlemen, if
Story,
you're
man.
watching on YouTube, K Walk just keeps them coming.
Yeah, my sons got me involved in when they were younger, man, and I just kept it going, man. I just kept it going. So
Yeah, I'm loving it, man. That's one of the themes of a show. But ladies and gentlemen, we got a lot to talk about today. College football, some NFL. Of course, we're going to talk about Serena Williams as it looks like her career has come to an end. So sit back, enjoy the show. We got some good stuff. But K Walk, let's start with college football. A big day yesterday, some really good games, some games that a lot
so
of people were anticipating. Georgia and Oregon. Let's start there, man. That was a big one. A lot of people thought, including myself, that this would be a pretty decent game. Georgia
yeah.
just comes in and completely blows their doors off. What were your thoughts on
Yeah.
that game, K Walk?
Yeah, Jay, I was just like you, man. I thought this was going to be a closer game, but Georgia came out and there were a lot of questions being asked about Georgia. Well, they lost 15 guys to the NFL last year, 13 of them being defensive guys. Would they be able to? And they lost their defensive coordinator who they were going up against, in that game as well. So but that was a huge question mark going into the game for sure. But as I stated, Georgia seems to plug and play, man. They just have the ability to do that. Kirby Smart does an excellent job of recruiting, and again, plug and play. That's what they did. Stetson Bennett, man, I was really impressed with Stetson Bennett. He seems very comfortable in that position now. Last season, at this time last season, he seemed kind of, he seemed kind of shaky, if you will. But it seems like the
Yeah.
game has slowed down tremendously for him, and he just looks really comfortable in that situation, in that position. And the defense played outstanding, as you can see, 49-6, Jay. Wow, we didn't see this coming for sure, but just hats off to Kirby Smart, that Georgia team, and especially the defense as well.
Yeah, man, for sure. I thought Georgia was just extremely impressive, man. Like, I don't think you could come out and perform better than that in the first game against a good opponent. And like you said, man, it wasn't like a rebuild. It wasn't like they had to find their way. They just reloaded. And one of the things I said, man, is I couldn't really tell that there was like a distinct talent drop off from the team they
Right.
had last year. We know they put a bunch of guys in the NFL, and now the guys that they have out there look like they're ready, look
Yeah.
like they're doing their part, and it doesn't look like there's a big drop off. And you mentioned Stetson Bennett, K Walk, and
Mm-hmm.
one of the questions I have for Georgia fans is, what do you want out of this guy? He won you the
Seriously.
national championship last year, and yet you still hear some Georgia fans saying, oh, we'd rather have the young kid in there. Like, what do you want him to do? I thought he played fabulous. His ability
Yes.
to he's got good legs, K Walk. There were times where he
Yes.
should have been sacked and was able to escape the pressure and keep plays alive. I don't know what
Yes.
more you want out of this kid. And like you pointed out, he looks super relaxed, super poised.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, I think Georgia, look, obviously there's a long season, but they're going to be favored probably in every single football game. So it would
Yes, sir.
not surprise me at all as when we get to the end of this thing, if Georgia is one of those last couple of teams standing, man, but just an outstanding performance by Georgia.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what do you think it is, man, with Stetson Bennett? Like, people still calling for him, like still not believing in him after everything that he's done. What do you think that
Yeah.
is?
I don't think he fits that prototypical quarterback. He's not 6'4", 6'5". He doesn't have that strong arm. but he's a winner, man, and he's just a winner. And you mentioned his mobility and his ability to extend the play and keep that play alive and get the ball downfield. I mean, I guess he just doesn't fit that prototype of the prototypical quarterback. That's the only thing that I can think of, Jay. But I mean, I like him, man. Other than when he plays against the Florida Gators, I like it. I'm gonna be a big fan of his, man, because he has proven that he can win it. And maybe they say the fans are saying, okay, well, he got his national championship last year. Let's bring this young kid in. It's kind of like this is you could never just be too happy, man. It's like the rich, they just want to be greedy, man. You want it all. You
Yeah.
just want it all, and you want everyone to shine. That's the type of situation that these fan bases put themselves in, especially when they get used to winning and a high expectation is there. But hats off to Stetson, man. Keep grinding, man, and keep using that as your motivation for sure. And then it can only make the fan base happier because of the fact of the matter is he's going to bring nothing but wins to that program for sure.
Yeah, man, he's been around for a long time. He looks totally comfortable. No moment is going to be too big for this guy after last year's season.
After last year, exactly.
I think he's the right guy to lead this program to try to repeat, but we'll kind of see how that thing goes down the road. But let's go to Columbus, K-Walk, Ohio State, Notre Dame. This was another big one. Two top 5 ranked teams. I thought Ohio State would maybe run away with this thing in the second half, but Notre Dame hangs around for the whole game. What did you think of this game? What did you see?
Well, first, I was very surprised that Notre Dame was as good as they were, as sound as they were, especially. Well, I'm not shouldn't be surprised because you got Marcus Freeman, Marcus Freeman as the head coach there, and he's a tremendous coach. He's been there for this is 7th year, first year as head coach, and 6th as the defensive coordinator there. So he's very familiar with the players and the coaching staff for the most part. So I'm not surprised there, Jay, how well they played. I'm just surprised that Ohio State wasn't able to open it up more, or I don't know if they weren't able to do so or just didn't do so. But if you look at their numbers, Jay, if you look at CJ Stroud's numbers and if you look at their rushing attack, they had a solid game from a statistical standpoint. They just didn't put up enough points for everyone to be happy with the outcome. Like I said, a lot of people tend to get greedy, but these are 2 top 5 teams. So when you see a top 5 team, 2 top 5 teams go at it, you don't really want to see a blowout. And we expected a blowout, but you don't really want to see a blowout because with the rankings coming out and this is a top 5 team. But hats off to Notre Dame for sure. But Ohio State just proved that they're just too much to handle. And you always mention that it's the first game of the season, so you really don't know what you're going to get out of these teams. It could be very well played. It could be some mistakes that are being made that cost you the game. And I think that's what ultimately happened here is that Notre Dame just made some mistakes at the wrong point at the wrong time, and Ohio State was able to take advantage of that for sure.
Yeah, man, you're 100% right. You never know how these first games are going to play out. And you mentioned Marcus Freeman. I think he's the right guy for this Notre Dame program.
Absolutely.
The defensive plan that him and Al Golden put together, I thought it was phenomenal. They weren't going to give Ohio State anything easy. They were going to make them earn every single thing they got. I think, though, for Ohio State, after watching them in the Rose Bowl last year and that just incredible offensive performance they put on, everyone, myself included, expected them to just pick right up where they left off last year.
Exactly.
That did not happen last year.
No.
But I think a positive, if you're a Buckeye fan, that defense, which at times last year did not look good at all, they played really well yesterday. So it looks like they got things corrected on the defensive side of the football. That offense is going to be good because they're just too talented not to be good. So I think that's a good win for Ohio State. I know some Buckeye fans this morning might kind of feel indifferent about it, but look, anytime you beat a team that's ranked in the top 5 in an opening game, I think that's a good win. So I think Ohio State needs to be good about that victory. Speaking of good wins, K-Walk, your Florida Gators, man. Coach Napier in his first season, Utah comes to town. This might have actually been the best big game of the weekend. There were other games that we thought would be good that didn't turn out that great. But this Florida Utah game did not disappoint at all. The Gators walk away with a win. Talk to me about that one, man. What a great win for Florida.
Yeah, man. I mean, just hats off. We didn't know what to expect as Florida Gator fans. We didn't know what to expect. It was kind of a wait and see. It's a rebuilding year for us for the most part. We bring in Billy Napier out of Louisiana there, and you just didn't know. I don't know how to feel about Billy Napier. He just, I'm so used to Dan Mullen and his, persona, and when he's interviewing, he's always fired up and he's always saying "Go Gators" after the fact. But Billy Napier seems like he's just a little bit more reserved and he's just all about business. And
Yeah.
but hats off to him. That defense played outstanding there. Rising, he did a very good job of with using his legs against the Gators. But at the end, the Gators ultimately pulled it out. With the big interception in the end zone. You can't say enough about Anthony Richardson, man. Anthony Richardson looked tremendous, man. I mean, when you look at this young kid and this young man, and you see the arm talent there, we saw that, in a couple of prior years when he was sharing time with Emory Jones. But last night, Jay, he just showed to me that he's very mature. He's very comfortable in this offense. He's not asked to do too much. The running game was really good. They stayed patient with the running game, which I was surprised with because usually when it doesn't happen immediately, a lot of coaches like to abandon that run. But they stayed patient. They stayed true to their game plan. And then Anthony Richardson used his legs in certain situations to get them out, to get them, down the field and ultimately in the end zone. So just proud Gator fan today, Jay, for sure, man.
Yeah.
You're playing against a top 10 team in Utah. A lot of people had them in their Final Four, but to come into to come into that game not knowing what you were going to get from them, rebuilding season, top 10 team, and to pull it out the way they did, just hats off to everyone from top to bottom in that program.
Yeah, man, that's a great win because Utah's a good football team. They've been a really
Yeah.
good program over the last even more. I mean, even since Urban Meyer was there, you could kind of feel that thing starting to build up. That's a good football team. So that's a really good win for them. I don't know that much about Napier, K-Walk, but I can tell you, like the physical style of football
Yeah.
that he played last night, I think that's going to go a long way. Like you could tell that he really wanted to dominate the line of scrimmage. He was committed to running the football.
Yeah.
And then, college football, unlike anything else, if you have a dynamic player at the quarterback position, that could make up for a lot of holes and weaknesses. And I
Absolutely.
thought Anthony Richardson, I thought he was phenomenal, K-Walk. He threw the
Yeah.
ball well. He made plays with his legs. He got out of trouble
Yes.
with his legs. It felt like he could do no wrong last night, man. And if he's going to play like that, you got to feel really good about Florida, man. So I thought that kid was absolutely phenomenal. A big kid, 240 pounds, that can run the way that he runs, that can throw the ball the way
Yeah.
that he does. Man, that was just absolutely impressive. Now, of course, they got to go through that SEC gauntlet, but man, just a
Yeah.
really great first win for the Gators, man. Just
Yeah.
outstanding
They, yeah.
stuff.
They, Yeah, they got Kentucky next week. Yeah, still at home, but that's going to be another test for them as well. A tremendous test there because, like you stated, SEC play is probably second to none in my opinion. But tough game next week. But we'll see if they can keep the thing rolling, if you will.
Yeah, that's right, man. No weeks off. Kentucky coming in next
Mhm.
week, and Kentucky's got a good football team with a
Yes.
quarterback who used to be at Penn State, transferred to Kentucky. This kid is on everyone's draft board, so that's going to be a really nice matchup next week. So something to look forward to. Man, but college football, it's back. There was some other great news this week, or at least I think it's great news. We'll see what you think about it. They're going to change the playoff system, K-Wall, coming up. And
Yeah.
it looks like 2026. They're going to
Mhm.
expand this thing to 12 teams. What are your thoughts on a 12-team playoff? A big leap from 4 to 12. There could have been some pit
Yeah.
stops in between
Right.
6,
That's what I was going
8 potentially, but they
to
jumped all the way to
say.
12. What are your thoughts on the new college football playoff format?
Yeah, I love the expansion aspect of it, Jay. I think that's that's a no-brainer in there. I was an advocate of 8 games, but 12, if we get 12 and no one gets in that 12 spot, I don't want to hear any more complaining about if you can't be the top 12 in the country, then you don't need to be in the playoff hunt in period. Because a lot when you have 4, you're going to sit there and say, oh, okay, well, so and so should have been in there, Cincinnati shouldn't have been in there, or whomever the case may be. I think this is enough teams where if you get the top 12 teams in there, then it's the right top 12, because after 12, it's just you could just pick anyone after that point. But yeah, I love it, Jay. Keep it that way. I think it's perfect right now. And there's just, I don't think there's going to be anyone complaining unless their team is just on that 12, that 12 game, that our 12 team bubble. But other than that, I think they're going to get it right. And we're going to have the best 12 teams each and every season thereafter.
Yeah, man, I agree with you. The only thing I'm a little upset about is that we have to wait till 2026.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
why
right?
couldn't they get this thing done sooner? I know they're saying they're
Right.
going to talk about if they can have it ready by 2024. But man, like, I don't want to wait till 2026. Let's
No.
figure a way out. Let's get this thing going sooner. That's the only thing I was a little upset about. I heard Kirk Herbstreit say something. I think I agree with it. He said college football has the best regular season in all of sports, because you could argue that in college football, every single game counts. Like, you lose a
Yes.
game, it's going to be hard to get into that top four. And if you lose two games, you can pretty much forget about it. You're not getting in the top
Exactly.
four. But he also said they had the best regular season, but the worst playoffs, because we've seen
Yeah.
it year in and year out. K-Walk, those playoff games just have not been good. A lot of blowouts, very underwhelming. I think going to this 12-team format is going to give us a little bit more in terms of the playoffs. Maybe we'll get some
Yeah.
upsets. Maybe we'll get some more exciting games. So I
Exactly.
think we're going to get some balance there. So I love the idea of including more teams. Hopefully my Nittany Lions will find a way to weave their way into that 12-team mix, man. So that's something I'm definitely excited about. So good stuff there, K-Walk. Let's grab a break, man. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about Jackson State. Dion, Coach Prime, and the boys kick off today against FAMU. So I want to talk about that a little bit. Plus, man, they have some challenges. Jackson, Mississippi has no water. It's affected their facilities. They had to leave
Yeah.
campus. So they're facing some challenges and struggles. So we'll see kind of how that impacts them today. And then also, I know it's way too early, K-Walk. Week 1 is not even over. We got some games tonight and tomorrow. But we're going to give you our top 5 anyway, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to tell you the best 5 teams in college football right now. So we'll do all that when we come back. You're listening to The Walkthrough with Kevin Walker and Jason Collins on Never Had It So Good Sports Radio. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Walkthrough with Kevin Walker and Jason Collins, right here on Never Had It So Good Sports Radio. We're glad you're with us. We're talking college football right now. We're going to get into some NFL topics a little bit later. We're also going to talk about Serena Williams in the second half hour, so stick around for that. But K-Walk, Coach Prime and Jackson State, they're going to kick it off, I think, 3:30 today against FAMU and their season opener. Obviously, Dion has brought a ton of attention to this program and just everything that he's been able to do, not just for Jackson State, but also for HBCUs in general. As I mentioned before the break, they're facing some challenges, K-Walk. This water crisis in Jackson, Mississippi, just really completely ridiculous. No water. It's affecting, obviously, the air conditioning. They can't flush the toilets. I mean, it's just a complete mess. What do you think about Jackson State today? Do you think this water situation is going to have any effect on their preparation and how they perform in the game? Give me your thoughts on this one.
No, I don't think it'll be. I mean, it's a little bit of a distraction, but I don't think it's going to be enough to where it takes away from their focus on the game itself in a whole. Obviously, going without water, not being able to shower, not being able to to flush toilet, things of that nature. That's huge. And sometimes we kind of take stuff like that for granted. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be too big of a deal there. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of outside stories surrounding this particular game, because if you mentioned last week with FAMU and the things that they had to go through with with everything and those kids being suspended, or ineligible, those 26 kids being suspended. So there's a lot of outside, there's a lot of distraction going on, but potential distractions going on here. So it's going to be very interesting to see how both teams or both programs handle this particular game. I think both teams will be ready to play, and they'll be in there. They're all going to be focused on this game because it is a huge game. It's on TV. You mentioned Jay. We're talking about Coach Prime, Jackson State. I think Coach Prime and Jackson State are going to be all right, and I think they'll ultimately pull this game out. But I think Coach Prime and that staff and that program will have those guys focused and have those guys ready to overcome that adversity. Now, FAMU is dealing with something a little bit different. You might not have some guys on the field from that aspect, but I do like Jackson State to win this game, but so many backstories on this one, Jay, and off the field stuff that could really, if you don't have the right leadership, Jay, which I believe both of these teams do, with Coach Simmons and Coach Prime. If you don't have the right leadership, it could very well be a reason or an excuse for saying, listen, this is why we lost the game or we didn't play the game as well because we had all these distractions. But I think they'll be all right, both teams, nonetheless.
Yeah, man, and you mentioned the issues at FAMU. I think I saw somewhere that number has come down to like 8 kids that still won't be able to play. I think they figured it out for a bunch of them, but still, I mean, you're losing 8 guys, especially if these are guys that are accustomed to playing. That's definitely going to affect your team. On the other side with Jackson and the water situation, K-Walk, as well as I do, that when you're an athlete, you are a creature of habit. Your schedule is the same every day, every week. It's really broken down by the minute. So when you kind of have to get off schedule and leave campus early, go to Florida early, do all these things that you weren't necessarily preparing to do, it does sort of throw you out of sync a little bit. But like you said, I think Coach Prime and the staff will have those guys ready to go. I expect them to win the football game today as well. And I'm looking forward to it, man. I can't wait. At 3:30, I'm definitely going to be locked in on that one. And I expect Coach Prime and the boys to get it done. All right, K-Walk, we got about 5 minutes left in my segment. So let's end this thing with giving everybody our top 5 in college football, man. This is something I like to do from week to week. And I know it's early. There's some teams we still haven't even seen them play. It's hard to tell a lot, even from a first game.
Yeah.
But if you had to lay it out, K-Walk, give me your top 5.
Yeah, I think, the top 5 is pretty much, well, actually, no, it changed for me a little bit, actually. So first team, number 1 team, I'm going with Alabama. I just think, they come in as the number 1 team for obvious reasons. What they did yesterday and, just handling business as they normally do. Number 2, I went with Ohio State. Ohio State, I thought, even though Notre Dame gave them all they could handle, I really thought that they still stayed true to themselves and ultimately got it done. So I'm going to go with Ohio State at number 2. Number 3, I'm going to go with Georgia. I mean, they look really good. We talked about it earlier in the show and how well they looked on both sides of the field. So I'm going to of the ball, excuse me. So I'm going to go with Georgia, number 3. Number 4, I know they got Georgia Tech tonight, and that's Clemson. And I think or tomorrow night, I believe. They got Clemson. I mean, Georgia Tech. I expect them to handle business. It's Georgia Tech. The ACC is not that deep right now, and I think Clemson right now is the cream of the crop in that ACC in that conference. Not saying a lot, but nonetheless, they still top 4 team for my opinion. Number 5, Jay, I was flipping the coin here a little bit here between Michigan and Texas A&M. Texas A&M, they played Sam Houston yesterday. They wound up winning 31-0. They had that long weather delay, but nonetheless, and that sometimes that can throw you off, throw your momentum off there. But they came back and they held true to themselves. So I don't know which way to go here, Jay, because then you had Michigan and then how they beat Colorado State as well. They look good. So I have them 5, 6. So right now since I put Michigan first on my notes here, Jay, I'm gonna say Michigan's number 5 and Texas A&M is number 6 right now.
All right, good stuff, man. I think we have all the same teams, just in a slightly different order. I put Georgia in the number 1 spot, man. I'm a big fan of you're the champ until someone knocks you off.
All right.
And I think after watching them yesterday, the eye test, Man, they just looked really, really impressive. So I gave Georgia my number one spot. At number two, I did go with Alabama. I didn't watch a ton of that game because we all knew the
Right.
outcome before the game even started. I
Exactly.
think we'll learn a little bit more about Alabama next week as they go up against Texas. But the
Yes.
little bits and pieces I did see, they look like Alabama. So no
Hmm.
surprises there. I dropped the Buckeyes down to number three. Good win against Notre Dame, but
Hmm.
offensively just was not as impressive as I thought they would be. So I moved Ohio State down to number three. I put
Okay.
Texas A&M at number four, man. I think this is a
Okay.
team that maybe some people are sleeping on. They've done a great job recruiting, so they've got a bunch of players there. I got Texas A&M at number four, and then at number five, of course, I've got Clemson sitting at number five.
Okay.
Even though we haven't seen them play yet, I think they're going to show out tonight, and I
Yeah,
think
for
they're
sure.
going to have a really nice bounce back season. I probably would have Michigan at number six. K Walk, as you mentioned, I thought
Hmm.
Michigan looked really good yesterday. Did exactly what they were supposed to do. Took care of
Exactly.
business. But somewhere in the back of my mind, that beatdown that Georgia put on them in the college football
Yeah.
playoff last year is still kind of lingering around in the back of my mind. But I would probably have Michigan sitting around number six for me. But good stuff there, K Walk. Great first
Yeah.
half hour. Let's grab a break. Ladies and gentlemen, when we come back, K Walk's got a bunch of good topics. Serena Williams, some NFL stuff. We're also going to do our Mount Rushmore, our all-time Mount Rushmore, every sport. So I'll tell you right now, K Walk,
Mhm.
I got 8 people on my list, and I got to figure out a way to trim that down to 4 before we get to that segment. But
Right.
it's going to be fun, ladies and gentlemen. So stick around. You're listening to the walkthrough with Kevin Walker and Jason Collins on Never Had It So Good Sports Radio. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the Walkthrough Radio Show with myself, Kevin Walker, alongside Jason Collins, right here on Never Had It So Good Sports Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, again, if you're listening, you could catch us or replays on Spotify, on iHeartRadio, and on Apple as well. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can catch us the Walkthrough Radio Show on YouTube. Click on subscribe, click on like, send in some comments as well on your thoughts and opinions on any topics that we have for sure. Definitely want to get this thing up and running and keep it rolling as well. So appreciate you guys tuning in each and every week. All right, Jay. We saw Serena Williams this past week. Um, First game, there was a lot of showing out for her, a lot of support from some big time names. We had Spike Lee, we had Gladys Knight, we had Tiger Woods, just to name a few. There was so many supporting for her first match. 29,000, Jay. 29,000 fans were out there. Then they had the little bit of the ceremony for her. Of course, I guess they weren't. I don't know if they were anticipating her to lose or if they were just playing on that win or lose. Either way, it was done. And then the following match, she came out against the second-ranked team, a second-ranked player, excuse me. And a lot of people doubted her and saying, okay, this is going to be the fair one. She's not going to be able to handle this. Proved it wrong. She came out on top, but then ultimately lost in the third round. Jay, she has proven to be not just the greatest female tennis player of all time. I think that's a foregone conclusion, even though she doesn't have the most majors, if you will, but she's proven to be the greatest to ever do it in her profession. But there's a lot of talk out there, Jay. First, before we get into that, give me your thoughts and opinions on her matches, and how you felt about her going into that tournament. And did you give her a realistic chance to win the U.S. Open?
Okay, well, just like a lot of other people, I did not think Serena was even going to win a match. I'm just being completely
Wow.
honest. She
Okay.
didn't look good coming into the tournament. In some of the matches she played beforehand, she was getting beat in the first round. And I just felt like it was over for her, that she really had no chance, that this would be more of just a saying goodbye to the greatest women's tennis player that we've ever seen, more so than her
Yeah.
really having a chance to do anything. But to my surprise, man, she came out in
Mhm.
round one and round two and played extremely well and kind of gave
Yeah.
us a glimpse back into why she is such a great champion, man. You could see that championship spirit, that championship fight within her. even in the third round, K Walk, again, she
Yeah.
played well. That match was taking so long. I think by the time they got to the
Yeah.
beginning of the third set, they had already been playing for 2.5 hours. I was texting
Yeah.
back and forth with my brother. I said, man, she's fighting hard, but I said, I think she's going to run out of gas. I wouldn't
Yeah.
be so surprised if in the third set this thing gets away from her. And
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what happened, man. I think she just sort of wore down a little bit of that third set. But I mean, when you start talking about careers and what she's done for women's tennis
Mhm.
and the humble beginnings that she came from to
To say the
rise
least,
to
yeah.
the top of the sport. I mean, you can't even put words around the things that Serena Williams has done, man. It's just absolutely tremendous.
Yeah, I mean, great stuff there. Great points there, Jay. And you mentioned her fatigue, in that third round matchup for sure. Let me ask you. I mean, she's 40 years old, 40 plus years old. So we knew eventually that would catch up to her. But let me ask you, she played doubles with Venus the day before. How much
Yeah.
of that do you think played a part of her being fatigued in the third match?
Yeah, I saw you message that into the group thread, and I said, you know what? I
Mhm.
think K Walk is on to something with this, man, because it's just expanding extra energy, right?
Yeah.
And we know, man, for whatever, when you're in your 40s, you're not recovering the same way as you are in
Facts.
your 20s and 30s. It takes a little bit longer. Those aches and pains, you can feel them a little bit more the next day. So I get why they did it. Venus and Serena, they probably wanted to have one
Yeah.
last hurrah playing together. I get why they did it. But I think if in terms of Serena's singles matches, I don't think it helped her at all from that aspect. So I think you hit the nail on the head with that, K Walk. I don't think that helped, but I understand why they would want to play together again for one last time.
Yeah, Jay, and when I think about it, I'm thinking like it feels like Serena didn't really expect to make it to the third round because of the fact of the matter is they already had this plan, meaning and Serena, I mean her and Venus to play doubles, and they haven't played doubles together in what 7 years. I think the last time they played doubles together was
Yeah.
2015, if I'm not mistaken. So it's kind of like she kind of felt like she wasn't going to get past a certain round. And I know, but it's Serena. You don't want to take anything away from Serena or question her by any stretch. But it just seems like the way everything was played out, she didn't expect to get as far as she got as well. But what say you about that, Jeff?
Yeah, man. I've seen people kind of debating this, right? Like, did she really believe that she could win the tournament, right? And I kind of have to agree. Like, look, athletes don't kid themselves. Like they can
Right.
say whatever they want, but deep inside, like when I've lost a step, or I'm not as quick
Yes.
as I used to be, or I can't I
Indeed.
can't make that guy miss like I used to be able to, right? Like you can say whatever you want, but deep inside, and I think deep inside, Serena knows like I'm not the same player that I was 10 years ago. I
Right.
mean, how can you expect her to be? So and I think
Yeah.
the way that she had played leading up to the tournament, I don't know that she really thought she could be the US Open champion. And I think that's
Right.
why she said, hey, Venus, let's play together one more time, just for the fanfare, just for the love of the
Right.
game, sisters playing together. Because I don't think maybe deep inside that she thought I'm gonna win this whole
Yeah.
thing. Now, hey, people may
Exactly.
say, no, it's Serena. She could have pulled it off. I don't think so. But
Mhm.
everybody's entitled to their opinion as far as that one goes.
Yeah, maybe a 25-year-old Serena or a 30-year-old Serena, maybe even a 35-year-old Serena probably could have
Yeah,
pulled that off. But just knowing that you had one day of rest between those matches, and then you're gonna that one day of rest that you have, you're gonna use that as a doubles match. So I don't know,
yeah,
Jay, but maybe this is her dance, her last dance, so she wanted to go out that way. So
yeah,
hats off
yeah,
to her, and again, just one of the greatest to ever do it as far as an athlete goes, Jay. And there's no question, again, as I mentioned earlier, there's no doubt about her being the greatest female tennis player and famous and tennis player of all time, in my opinion. I'm
yeah.
going to throw her in both men's and women's for sure. But now let's get to a broader picture, Jay. All right, because there's a lot of talk out there about Serena being on that Mount Rushmore of athletes of all time, and those names out there. So, Jay, I posed to you last night, and I thought about it. I said, listen, let's do a Mount Rushmore of athletes, and let's see if Serena is on either one of our Mount Rushmores, and if not, how close is she to being on there? So, with all that being said, Jay, give us, our listeners, your Mount Rushmore of athletes.
Okay, Walk, I wasn't lying, man. I got 7 names on my list, and I'm trying to
Right.
pare this thing down to 4. And it's tricky because like we're doing athletes, right? So it's like, are we just trying to pick the best athletes? Are we taking into account like what they accomplished, what they meant to the sport, what they meant to the culture? Like there's so many things that you
Okay.
could factor in, right? Because if I was
Right.
just thinking about athletes, I think Deion Sanders might be on my Mount Rushmore because I think
Okay.
it's
Okay.
hard pressed to find a better athlete than Deion, but
Okay.
he's not on
Gotcha.
mine because I put some other
Okay.
things into it. So MJ for me is a lock. I don't care if you're making
Okay.
a Mount Rushmore and you don't have MJ on it, then I don't want to hear your Mount Rushmore. I just don't. So I got MJ.
You hear
MJ
that,
is
Shannon
locked
Sharp?
in. Yeah, I saw his, and I can't listen to him anymore, K Walk. But so I got MJ. I think you have to put Muhammad Ali on it. I just think you do.
Okay.
Like I don't even know if boxing gurus would consider him the greatest boxer to ever box, but I just think the way that he captured everyone's
Hmm.
attention and imagination and what he did for the culture and how he inserted himself in the political climate at that
Absolutely.
time, it would be
Yes.
hard to not have Muhammad Ali. So I got Muhammad Ali at number 2. After
Okay.
that, I think there's a whole bunch of different ways you could go. I think I'm going to put Tiger Woods on there at
Okay.
my 3rd spot, just because K Walk, I think what Tiger did for golf, for people like you and me who probably would have not watched a whole lot of golf in our lives.
Exactly.
The only reason I know about golf or even how to play
Hmm.
golf and how the scoring works in golf is because of Tiger Woods. And I bet
Great
there's a
point.
ton of people all around the country that would say the same thing. If it wasn't for
Hmm.
Tiger, I wouldn't know anything about golf. So for me, and
Okay.
not to mention the 15 majors, you could argue
Right.
that he's the greatest player to ever pick up a club, just the way that he took the PGA Tour by storm. So I got Tiger on there as well. Now, man, this number 4 spot. Let me tell you some of the names I've got on my list. I got
Okay.
Tom Brady on my list. I have Serena left. I have Jackie Robinson. I have Hank Aaron, Michael Phelps. I mean,
Wow.
you could go a lot of different ways. I'm not going to do Phelps, man. Look, I know he's accomplished a lot in swimming. I can't even
Yeah.
swim K-walk, so it just doesn't
Yeah.
move me a whole lot. So I'm not going to do Phelps, man. I think that 4th spot. I'm going to go, man. I think I'm going to go Hammer and Hank. I'm going to go Hank Aaron, man.
Okay.
For a long
Okay.
time, he was the home run leader until Barry Bonds passed him up. To come up in the time that he came up with a lot of the challenges that you have to face, not just playing basketball, just an iconic guy, along with Jackie Robinson. I think you go either way with those two, but I
Yeah.
think I'm going to go Hank Aaron, man. So give me MJ, give me Muhammad Ali, give me Tiger Woods, give me Hank Aaron. I think I've got Serena in that 5th or 6th spot. I think I would put her ahead of
Okay.
Tom Brady. But
Oh,
maybe
wow.
I
Okay.
debate Serena and Jackie Robinson. So I would probably have Serena at 5 or 6.
All right, Jay, that's a great list, man. And we have a lot of overlap. Not our 4 are going to be a little different. I'm just going to be one difference. But like you, I went with MJ. I think he's a no-brainer. And like you said, and Shannon Sharp, if you're listening, if you don't have MJ on your Mount Rushmore, just don't even bother. Don't even enter the conversation, man, or the debate. Number 2, like you, I also have Muhammad Ali for everything that you mentioned, what he did, not only in the ring, but outside of the ring, his political views as well, his stance, against, going over to Vietnam and things of that nature. So, yeah, I would put him 1, 2 without even blinking, Jay. Those were
Yep.
automatics. 3, I also went with Tiger as well. I mean, you mentioned,
Okay.
I don't like, and when Tiger's not in there, I'm not interested in golf. I'm not interested in golf. I'm just not. I knew about golf before because my father played, but I didn't watch it, until Tiger got into the picture. It's just a no brainer for me to have Tiger there. Now, this is where I'm just like you, Jay. 4 was rough for me, man. 4 was rough. I thought about going Tom. And I really considered going with Serena, because Serena is right there on the edge. I want to do it. It may change in the future, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm reserving the
Yeah.
right to my Mount Rushmore right now. So, but as of right now, I'm going to go with the guy that you mentioned, even though you don't have him there, and that's Jackie Robinson. I think what he
Yep.
did, and to break the barrier that he broke and go through everything that he had to go through at that time and still become as great as he was. And even today, in baseball, they have Jackie Robinson Day, where no one is allowed to wear the number 42 ever again. And then on his day, everyone wears 42. So it's a huge barrier, especially in a sport that's predominantly, a white sport. So I'm going to put Jackie Robinson there. So I'm going to go Michael Jordan
Yeah, that's
again,
huge.
Muhammad Ali, Tiger Woods, and Jackie Robinson. And I have Serena right there saying, listen, can you guys make it, give me, chisel a little bit of one more person next to that Mount Rushmore and put me on there. But she's very close. She's very close in my opinion. So for sure. So great stuff there, Jay. Great
Yeah,
stuff.
K-Walk, you know what, man? Let
go
me
ahead.
let me revise mine, because you convinced me, man. I want to substitute Jackie Robinson for Hank Aaron. I think everything
All
you said
right.
about Jackie Robinson, I think you're right, man. I think he deserves that spot. So I'm gonna substitute Jackie as well, man. I think he should be on there.
All right, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. So Jason and I have Mount Rush, all right, Mount Rushmore the same. So,
Yeah, take that, Shannon
yeah,
Sharp.
yeah, but seriously, man. And if you didn't see his, ladies and gentlemen, please, I don't even want to this. I mean, they're not bad athletes. Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking anything away from them, but to not have MJ on there, it's just ridiculous. When I saw that, Jay, I just said, "What is this guy thinking, man?" And I don't know, Jay, but it's a great stuff. Let's see here. Let's take a quick break. Actually, no, let's forego our break here, Jay. And I want to talk about let's talk about the games that are coming up. I want to talk about Florida State LSU. We have them tonight. And right now you got Florida State. They had a tough game last week. I don't want to call it a tough game, but they played Duquesne. I didn't realize Duquesne. There's a couple of programs out there, Jay, that I didn't know they had a football program. Like Duquesne is one of them. Yesterday, Old Dominion came out, and I knew about their basketball program and their women's basketball program, but I didn't know Old Dominion had a football program. And I did not know Duquesne had a football program as well. I do know that they have a basketball program, but nonetheless, Florida State put it on them, as they should. But now they got LSU coming, into the picture right now. And you got Brian Kelly making his debut here. How do you see this game playing out? And a lot of surrounding talk about him, man. And will we hear that Southern accent? I know a lot of people, especially my co-host Eric Scott on Wednesday nights. He has a real problem. He felt disrespected by that Southern accent, so rightfully so. I didn't know he had one either. But what say you about this game nonetheless, Jay?
Yeah, man. Brian Kelly, a man of many accents, because every time he talks, he changes it. But yeah, man, I don't know. I think Florida State's in trouble tonight. I really do. I think LSU, I think they've got a good roster. I think they've underachieved the last few years. I think they've been undercoached the last few years. And regardless of what you think of Brian Kelly and some of the antics that he's pulled since he's got hired at LSU, I actually think he's a pretty good coach. Like, I think offensively, he puts a pretty nice game plan together and can call a good game offensively. So I just don't think Florida State's going to be able to compete for 60 minutes. So I like LSU in this game. Like you, I'm just not sure what Florida State has. They've had a lot of transition over the years, and I just don't know. I think LSU top to bottom probably has the better team. So I'm going to go with, and I think Brian Kelly's got to win this game, man. He's got to get this thing started right. Those LSU fans, they want to win this game. I think he has to win. So give me LSU, and I don't even know how close it's going to be. Maybe a couple of touchdown win. Give me LSU by a couple of touchdowns, man.
Yeah, I have LSU as well, Jay. I mean, I just believe in that program, and that's one of those, one of the top programs in the country for sure. Brian Kelly. I mean, a lot of knock on him, the way he handles certain things, but at the end of the day, I agree with you. I think he's a really good coach, very offensive minded, and I think being in LSU, I think it gives him a good chance to recruit very well for sure. And again, like you said, with Florida State, they're kind of an enigma with me. I just don't really know how to put my hand on them, what type of team you're going to see week in and week out. First week you can say, okay, oh, they look great. They got the athletes, they got this guy. But then the following week, they just just poops the bed, if you will, lack of a better term, for sure. So yeah, I'm going to go with LSU here, Jay, as well. I think Brian Kelly will get his inaugural win there for sure. All right, Jay. I want to switch gears. When I was staying on the college talk, and we talked about Scott Frost and his game after Northwestern. Now, Scott Frost had a tough. I mean, it shouldn't be, it shouldn't be, but it was a tough one yesterday, Jay, between them and North Dakota, man. Now they pulled it out 38-17. On the paper that looks good, but at half it was, I believe it was tied 7-7. I believe it was tied, but nonetheless, James, the Scott Frost. I mean, next they got Georgia Southern, but before we get to them, give me your thoughts and opinions on this, man. Is this still not good enough to win, Jay? Should he be blowing teams out like this? What say you about Scott Frost?
Yeah, man, I think that's the telltale sign that you don't have a good football team. Like when you play a team that you're supposed to run away from and they're hanging
Yeah,
around and it's close, I think that's a telltale sign. Because what are they going to do when they have to play a good team in the Big Ten? I just don't see it getting
yeah,
done. And I'm a little perplexed by this, K Walk, because I didn't think Scott Frost was a bad coach like when they hired
right.
him. He had success. Where was he at? Like UCF before he came to Nebraska, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah. Hmm.
And he had a lot of success there. So it's like, did this guy forget how to coach or what? So I
Yeah,
think part of it is maybe he's overthinking some things. But then I think the other part of it, man, is I just don't know how good the athletes are that Nebraska's
yeah.
getting
That's what I was
anymore,
going to
right?
ask.
When
Hmm.
you look at that football team, I don't see anyone jumping off the screen like, oh, wow, that guy's a real player. So I just don't know that Nebraska is able to get those top flight athletes. So I think Scott Frost is in trouble at Nebraska. I don't think they're going to have a good year. K Walk, they're going to probably lose 5 or 6 ball games before it's all said and done. So I think that seat, even though he got the win yesterday, I think
Right.
that seat is still very warm for him.
Yeah, for sure, Jane. And like I mentioned, they got Georgia Southern next week. I mean, that should be a no-brainer. Now, Jay, what do they have to do for his seat to get just a little bit cooler or lukewarm, if you will, against Georgia Southern? What do they have to do? Do they have to shut them out? Do they have to blow them out by 50? What's that? What kind of game do Nebraska needs to have in order for Scott Frost to talk about Scott Frost being fired to just put to bed for a week, if you will?
I think they just need to be impressive, K Walk. I think they need
Hmm.
to play a complete football game. Win by 30 against a team like that, right? Stop doing
Hmm.
onside kicks in the middle of the game where it makes
Seriously.
absolutely no sense at all. Just things like that. Just go out and look impressive from start to finish. I think that'll take a little bit of the heat off them. But honestly, K Walk, I think really it's going to matter once they get into Big Ten play. Like if they can make a little bit of noise in Big Ten play, then I think some of the
Hmm.
heat will start coming off of Scott Frost. But man, they need to go out and look impressive because even though they won, I don't think
Yeah.
anyone in Nebraska is feeling real good about that performance yesterday.
Yeah, I have to agree, Jay, 100%. Now I know we're going to continue to talk about Scott Frost, maybe next week or maybe the following week, but either way, we're going to talk about Scott Frost at some point throughout the season. Then you mentioned the Big Ten play, Jay, and the Big Ten is one of the best conferences in all of college football. Now, if he's struggling with Northwestern and he's struggling with North Dakota, and he struggles a little bit with Georgia Southern, and he gets an expensive Big Ten play. Doesn't look good for that program, as far as wins and losses goes. So, do you see Scott Frost making it through the season, Jay, as the head coach of Nebraska?
Man, that's a great question, K Wall, because I'm peeking at their schedule right now. And after
Mhm.
Georgia Southern, they got to play Oklahoma,
Okay.
and
Oklahoma, yeah.
then they got to play Indiana, which you say, well, it's Indiana, but I don't think that's
Yeah.
necessarily a win for Nebraska. They got Purdue, they got Michigan on the schedule, Wisconsin on the schedule. I mean, to me, all those feel like they could be losses. Now, he
Yeah.
is a Nebraska guy, so will they kind of give him that respect? I mean, we know what he did on the field at Nebraska. So
Uh-huh.
will they kind of give him that leniency not to fire him midseason? I could maybe see that happening, but I don't know that he survives the year. Like he probably
Yeah.
won't be back next year, but I could see him maybe holding off and not firing him midseason.
Okay, I can see that as well, Jay, because I think that they kind of know what you're going to get when you mention those teams. I mean, they're obviously you can't you if you were a betting man, you wouldn't, especially with his past with Nebraska,
Yeah.
you probably would go with the other team, before you pick Nebraska, especially all those teams that you mentioned, the Oklahomas, the Purdue's, even the Indianas, like you stated, they don't
Yeah.
jump off the page in Big Ten, but when it comes down to Nebraska versus Indiana, that's a huge matchup for Nebraska. Unfortunately
Yep.
for them. All right, Jay. All right, almost on that clock, up against that clock. But before we do that, Jay, before we get into my start bench cut, I have to ask you. We're talking about hot seats right now. We're talking about Scott Frost in the hot seat. Yesterday, North Carolina Tar Heels, Appalachian State. 63-61. Jay, I when I looked at the score, I'm watching a little bit of the game, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the score, at the end of the day, if you weren't watching that game, Jay, and you saw 63-61, you would think that the Tar Heels had a preseason basketball game, man, because that was
Yep.
ridiculous. But what say you
Yep.
about the North Carolina Tar Heels defensive staff? Are they on the hot seat? Should they be gone? What say you about that?
Well, Gene Chizik, former Auburn head coach, is the defensive coordinator
Mhm.
there, and I think they should fire him. K Walk, that was an
It's
atrocious
ridiculous.
performance. And look, App State is no gimme. Like we know App State's going to play you tough. We know they've got a
Mm-hmm.
really nice program, but how do you give up 40 points in a quarter? K Walk,
And
they gave up 40 in the fourth
40.
quarter. And even after they returned the onside kick late in the game and it looked like the game was over, you let App State come down the field and score
Mm-hmm.
again in less
Right.
than 30 seconds. K-Walk, that's just terrible defense. Like, there's no
Right.
excuse for that. And I'm not normally calling for somebody to be fired or saying, but
Right.
that was just inexcusable. How are you that bad defensively? So yes, I think that whole defensive staff, I know they can't do it, but I think that whole defensive staff needs to go because that was embarrassing, K-Walk.
Yeah, Jay. Yeah, you mentioned 40 points, 338 yards in the fourth quarter. I mean, that's a game for some people. I mean, that's a game for some
Yeah.
teams. That's ridiculous, man. It really is. And when they kicked the onside kick and North Carolina recovered it, I'm thinking, fall down. I think it was like 29 seconds,
Yeah.
30 seconds, or whatever it was. Just kneel it. Just what do you, I know you want to score, you want to you want to get in the papers, and you want the girls to say, oh, you just scored that touchdown. I
Yeah.
saw you. I know, I get
Yeah.
all that. I get all that. But in the grand scheme of things, you want to win that game. Ultimately, they did win the game, but like you stated, Jay, it shouldn't have been that close. And believe it or not, their defense actually did wind up winning in the game. And that when they went for that 2-point conversion, they were able to
Yeah.
stop the quarterback there. But yeah, they those guys, man, right now on that defensive side of the ball, as far as the coaching staff goes, they need to start, ordering some boxes right now and just keeping them in their closet just in case they have to pack up their things and go. But yeah, that was a tough one, Jay. Tough one though. All right, Jay, it's that time right now, man. We're gonna do start bench cut. And this week, it's football season, college football season. So I'm gonna go with the theme of this. This is the best players that wore a certain number. So and I even threw number 21 in there for me. My first year of college, I wore number 21, number 8 for yourself, and I threw number 15 in there because of my man Anthony Richardson, his performance yesterday. So in honor of him. So these are the best players that wore number 15, and it's a start bench cut again. Number 15 at college, we got Drew Brees, we got Tim Tebow, and we got Tommy Frazier from Nebraska.
Oh man. I
Start
was like,
bench cut.
okay, Drew and Tim, they're gonna make it. Then you threw Tommy Frazier in there on me, man. My goodness. I look, I know people are going to say he wasn't good as a pro, but what Tim Tebow did in college, you could argue that he's one of the best college players ever to do it. I'm starting Tim Tebow.
Okay.
I'm going to bench Tommy Frazier. I think Tommy was outstanding at Nebraska. I know it was a while ago, so people are going to forget about it, but I'm going to bench Tommy Frazier. I got nothing against Drew Brees. Shout out my man, E. Scott, but I'm sorry, Drew. I'm cutting you, man. Drew, you got to go.
All right. You know what, man? I thought you was going to, I thought you was going to give Drew Brees some love and start him because you picked him off and when you're at your tender at Penn State. So I thought you was going to give him some love, but understood. All right, so good stuff. So I'm going to start Tim Tebow as well. I'm gonna bench Drew Brees and I'm gonna cut Tommy Frazier just for the sake of the segment. All right, next one we got number 21. All right, we got Desmond Howard, the Magic Man. We got Barry Sanders, and we got Calvin Johnson, aka Megatron.
Bench cut. Man. All right, so give me Barry. Give me Barry because Barry was just tremendous in college. You can't touch Barry. Yes. Give me Barry to start. Seriously. I'm benching Desmond, Heisman Trophy winner, what he did at Michigan, the iconic Heisman pose. I'm benching Desmond.
Yes.
Megatron, he was great in the pros, but they didn't really feature him a whole lot at Georgia Tech. They didn't throw him a lot of balls running that option. So I got to cut Megatron on this one.
All right. Listen, man, I love Barry Sanders. He's my favorite running back of all time. He's in my number one running back of all time on my Rushmore as well. But I went with Desmond, man. He's the reason why I wore 21 my freshman year. He was the Magic Man for a reason, man. I did everything that he did. He was a receiver. He was a punt returner, kick returner, man. So I pat my game after him. So I started Desmond Howard. I'm going to bench Barry Sanders, and I'll cut Calvin Johnson for sure. All right, Jay, this is last one here. Number 8. You're number 8 here, man. We got your guy, Troy Aikman at UCLA. We got Marvin Harrison at Syracuse, and we got Julio Jones at Alabama. Start bench cut.
Okay. I got to start Julio because at Alabama he was just ridiculous. So I'm gonna start Julio. Man, this one's tough, K-Walk. I think I'm going to bench Marvin Harrison. I don't remember much of Troy Aikman at UCLA. Like, there's nothing that's really jogging my memory. So let me start Julio. I'm going to bench Marvin. I'm going to cut Troy Aikman.
All right, good stuff, man. I can't argue with that, man. I'm going to start Marvin Harrison. The reason why I started Marvin Harrison, he was one of the receivers I played against when he was at Syracuse. And I remember, Jay, he was one of 2 receivers that I ever watched. I just when you're on the sideline and the defense is up, if you're on offense, you generally go to your offense and they talk about the game plan or what have you.
Yeah.
I ignored that, Jay. And what I did was I went to the sideline. I went on one knee with my helmet and I was just watching this guy go to work on the field, man. Him and Bobby Ingram from Penn State were the only 2 guys that I ever did that with. So I want to say I'm going to start Marvin Harrison. I'm going to bench Julio Jones. I just think what he did at Alabama, he was just outstanding. And Troy Aikman, even though I watched him a little bit when he was at Oklahoma and then he transferred to UCLA. I did watch him a little bit there, but I'll cut Troy Aikman there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time that we have. So great stuff there, Jay, for sure. As I do every week, I want to leave you guys with something. This week, I'll leave you with this. Never stop learning because life never stops teaching. Okay, I am Kevin Walker for Jason Collins and the Walkthrough Radio Show right here on Never Had It So Good Sports Radio. God willing, we'll talk to you next week.